But I think the key to finding the right people is to allow them to find you. Is if you're doing the right things, then the people who truly love what you are doing will want to be a part of it. We don't do pay-to-play stuff here. Everything that we put out is very much community and culture focused. What we did know was the only thing that really seemed to help was weed. So
what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of OpsTalk by Paired. Today, my guest is Dustin Hoxworth, the founder of Fat Nugs Magazine, which is the only nationally distributed cannabis publication in the US that's been around for 3.5 years. I was really excited to speak to Dustin for that reason. Dustin, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Martin. Excited to be here, man.
Likewise. Excited to have you. And we were just chatting about the success that you guys have created so far, selling at 5,000 copies with every print, being present across 38 states. And people side, you have 14 people at your organization that are fully remote throughout the US. So I think we're going to have a very insightful chat today.
Love it. I'm ready. Let's go.
My first question for you, Dustin, is how did you get into the cannabis industry in the first place?
Great question. It was sort of a little bit by necessity, a little bit by accident. I've been around cannabis my entire life. And I think after COVID, things just kind of changed in the world, so to speak. And I had an opportunity to step into the industry and to really bring some of my, knowledge and creative spark to the space. And within about a year or so of me stepping into the industry, I realized that there was this enormous gap that existed when it came to publications. And I saw a need for a community and culture focused publication that I used to grow up. Like I grew up on High Times when I was a kid, as a teenager. High Times was huge for me. They changed a lot and, kind of went away from the community and culture side of cannabis. And no one else in the industry was really, focused on that side of the industry itself. So I wanted to bring that to the industry, but do it in a way that was very, focused on the visual aspect, the creative aspect, storytelling, and a lot of really based on authentic cannabis and authentic journalism. That was how I got into the industry and still here doing my thing.
Absolutely. I love that. You said that you've been around cannabis since you were a kid. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, man. So I have a very large military family. I have 22 plus family members that are either active or former military. And when my dad and my uncles came back from Vietnam, we just had a lot of problems in the family, a lot of PTSD stuff. We didn't know what PTSD was back then. As a matter of fact, no one did. It was called shell shocked back then. And I don't think PTSD was sort of stamped into our vernacular until around 1980 or 81. We didn't even know what that was, though. What we did know was the only thing that really seemed to help was weed. So from the earliest moments of my childhood, that's what I remember was my family getting together, family friends getting together, smoking, just enjoying the plant. And the kids were always around. We were just off doing our thing. We didn't mind. It didn't bother us. We didn't even know, anything about it, right? We just knew that that's what my dad always smelled like. That's what my uncles always smelled like, that kind of stuff. So, I think that because of that background, because of, being exposed to it from a very early age and having conversations and my dad and all my uncles looking like Cheech and Chong, that was how I was truly exposed to cannabis.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's what you mean by being around it since a kid. Well, that's really interesting that it sounds like you got exposed to its therapeutic use so early, right?
Yeah. So I don't think any of us knew that's what was really going on. And I do think that a lot of people, when they first experience cannabis, we're smoking weed, so to speak, because it's fun and enjoyable and we get to hang out with our friends and there's a community and friendship aspect to it there. So I don't think that the therapeutic or the medicinal side of cannabis was actually known back then in my family. What I realized that as I got older and I started to consume in 1995 and have been a daily consumer since, that even though I was consuming for the fun aspect, to get high, to enjoy myself, I
Yeah.
honestly didn't know that I was consuming it in a medicinal fashion, so to speak, in a therapeutic way. It was helping me with all the PTSD that I had from all the things that I experienced when I was growing up, and anxiety and sleep issues and pain. So when I was in college in the 90s, and in
Yeah.
1995, when I started to consume on a daily basis, I had some issues. I had some health issues. I was playing college volleyball. I had aches and pains. I was always going to the gym. And I didn't realize at the time that when I was smoking, I was sort of therapeutically taking care of some of those health issues. But
Right.
I think within a couple of years, I realized, oh, this is a pretty important part of the aspect of healing for me. And so that's when the therapeutic side of cannabis kind of came into mind. And I realized that it's not just something to have fun with. It's not just something that I saw Cheech and Chong doing on the TV or in the movies. It was something that I was consuming to really help me in my life on a daily basis. Again, from having aches and pains, having anxiety, and those types of things. So exposed to it at an early age, started consuming in 1995 for fun, and then within a couple of years, I quickly realized that, oh wow, this is actually medicine.
Gotcha. Was Fat Nugs Magazine your first venture, or did you have any other entrepreneurial projects before that?
No, I don't even come from publishing or anything like that either. So when I got into the industry itself, I was actually helping a couple other companies, and then I got the chance to kind of do my own thing. But no, this was, Fat Nugs Magazine is really my first entrepreneurial thing that I had ever done in my life, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking about this just before we press record, right? And I personally have seen a pretty big change in the cannabis industry, specifically, obviously, if we're looking at the US market, there's more and more businesses and it's getting more and more corporate, right?
Sure.
And it seems like you guys with Fat Nugs Magazine, you take much more of like an authentic, artistic, creative, and more like human-centered approach. So I'm curious, how can you create a business model that obviously, generates a profit and provides a living for you and for your team, and, still navigate this like new business, more and more businessy landscape?
Yeah, that's a great question. And really, it's not an easy thing to do because, the corporate side of things is where most of the money is, and they're
Right, of
willing to
course.
spend that money. We don't take
Yeah.
that money. So we're working with the small mom and pop, equity, legacy, veteran, and women owned cannabis businesses and voices in this space. And the way to properly do that so that you can actually build a business that is profitable, not to say that we're very profitable at this point, but to do that properly, it's really about supporting people first. It's about supporting those voices that actually matter in this space. The
Yeah.
corporate overlords, so to speak, that I like to call them, they don't really care about cannabis. They don't care about the medicinal aspect of cannabis.
Yeah.
They're not a part of the community and culture of cannabis. So being able to focus on the smaller side of the industry, where most of the people that are working in the industry are actually from the community itself, have been around cannabis, for years and years, have been consuming. They've been helping people by growing, being a home grower, and um, someone that a caregiver, right? Someone who provides cannabis to help people with cancer, cancer and other types of things.
Yeah.
That's where we focus. And as long as you can help those types of people and you can uplift those voices and uplift those brands and tell those stories, and if you're doing it right, eventually you will have the backing and you will have the support that you need from the industry. So if you focus on the right people, the good people doing good things, that's the real way to be able to develop any kind of good company in this industry, at least in my opinion.
Absolutely, absolutely. How is your business model set up? I'm just curious because, like you said, I'm sure it's not easy to make profit, but I also feel like there is probably a niche market for this, right?
Yeah.
And so does it just come from choosing the right advertisers that are more in line with your mission and values, or how do you guys do this?
Yeah, that's a really good question as well. So, you know, the basically the business model is advertising, right? That's a part of it, but also
Yeah,
partnerships. And it's being able
right,
to pull the people in that are here with us always so that we can, like I said before, continue to uplift their brands and uplift their voices, and they are always here.
yeah,
And really that's the business model. It's
mhm,
advertising and partnerships. And that's really the way to go. You know, advertising in this space is not easy to come by. Getting those advertising dollars, one, because everybody's broke in this space, unless you're one of the big corporate 5 or 6 companies that operate. But
right. Interesting.
the business model is kind of comes second to what we do as creators here. We
Hmm.
focus on creating first. We focus on the visual aspect, the beautiful photography, the really cool art. And then on top of that, you have the excellent editorial that is focused on storytelling and really authentic journalism. And that's really the basis for the building of the actual business side.
Yes.
Once you do that properly, then your advertisers come, then your partnerships come, and that's really how this thing has been built.
I think the fact that you guys sell out with every print, it speaks for itself, right?
Yep,
Like there is interest, and I think there will continue to be an interest because I think cannabis culture, by its very nature, is not suit and ties and Excel sheets and nicely branded plastic packages with gummies in them, right? It's something a lot more earthy and raw and human, and
yeah,
so yeah, I think there's definitely a space that you guys can occupy there. I think it's very
absolutely.
cool.
It's grassroots, right? And cannabis
Exactly.
is perfect for that. And I think you hit it on the head earlier when you said niche, right? It's a very
Mhm.
niche thing. And in publishing, the way to be successful is to be niche. It's to speak
Right.
to people in a very specific way in a specific industry that is not necessarily, I want to say, worldwide loved by everyone, anyone and everyone, but it's
Mhm.
really, really loved by the people who truly love cannabis and who come from cannabis. So if
Yeah.
you're niche, you're doing things the right way and supporting people the right way, you
Yes.
can absolutely be successful in this space.
Absolutely. And Dustin, you mentioned that you guys are a 14-person team,
Yep.
right? And I'm just curious, what are some of the lessons that you learned building a sort of grassroots business like this? What are the most important lessons you learned about people and getting the right talent? By the way, if you're looking to build your team with incredible overseas talent, check us out at paired.so. We help you find your perfect overseas hire that delivers world-class results for the fraction of the local cost for the same role. If for whatever reason you don't end up hiring anyone, you pay nothing, so it's 100% risk-free. We would love to chat and see if we can help you and your business. Link is in the description. Now back to the pod.
Oh, goodness. Those lessons are all over the place, and sometimes they're very hard to learn.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
you know,
Absolutely.
bringing in the right people is something that I've never been perfect with. We've
Right.
had people come and go here. That's natural to any company, right? But I think the key to finding the right people is to allow them to find you. Is
Mm,
if you're doing the right things, then the people who truly love what you are doing will want to be a part of it. And that's really what's happened is that we've had a just a mass amount of people want to come here and write with us, be a part of the internal team, want to edit, want to be photographers, want to write, want to create, want to, you know, do anything and everything to actually help the publication succeed. And so
yeah.
finding the right people means that really what you're trying to do is create a situation and a space where people are accepted, they are appreciated, and it's an open, honest, and transparent sort of way that we operate business here. So everyone
Mhm.
feels as though, and they are very important to the success of the magazine, very important to creating the things that we create here. They have their very specific tasks, and being able to find those people that can take care of those tasks in a way that helps to create the overall publication in the same view and in the same way that the publication needs to be created. That is
Yes.
key. So it's creating a space for people that, want to be a part of something kind of bigger than themselves, something that's grassroots, something that's not corporate, and they get to bring their whole selves. So when you're open and accepting of who people are, and you acknowledge that their individualism is what helps us to create the collective organization that is Fat Nugs Magazine, that's a big part of this. So it's just being open to the right people and the right situations at the right time. So the timing aspect is always important. We don't have a whole lot of money here at all, but what we do have is a mass amount of talent, and the talent wants to be heard and seen and be a part of things. And if you do that properly, you attract the right talent.
Absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely love that. And, as someone who's in recruiting, I strongly believe in that as well. What you just said, letting the right people find you. That's very interesting as well. And I'm just curious, are there any green flags you look out for if somebody reaches out to you guys and says, hey, I want to work for Fat Nugs Magazine, and there's a potential to hire them? What are some of the green flags that you look out for in like a rock star hire?
Yeah, green flags. That's a good one. I've never heard that before, because it's always a red flag, right? Everybody's like, those are red flags.
I'll ask about that as well. I'll ask about both. Let's start with the positive.
Yeah, no doubt. So there's an excellent word. Are they a positive member of the industry, right? Is their voice, something that can be a positive representation of cannabis? The biggest green flag that I have is, do they care about cannabis? Do they want to be here to uplift the plant first, and everything comes after that? And if that's the case, that's the number one thing that I look for, is, do you actually care about the plant and the people and the community and the culture that surrounds that plant? That's the first and foremost green flag.
When you say uplift the plant, what do you really mean by that?
I get that question quite a bit because it sounds like some hooey stuff. But basically what that means, and I've kind of touched on this a little bit already, it's really about supporting the small mom and pop, equity, legacy, veteran, and women-owned cannabis businesses and voices. And when you're uplifting the plant, what that means is that you are speaking positively about cannabis. You are sharing, anything that is helpful and uplifting to not only the plant itself, but the community and culture that surround it and the industry overall. I think it's extremely important to realize that as a publication, as a media company in cannabis, I believe you have an obligation to share the truth. And I believe the truth around cannabis is mostly positive. And so being able to share those positive stories about not only the plant, but the people that actually make up this industry as well, I think that's how you truly uplift the plant. It's also about being a bridge to people that are outside of the industry, that are sort of outside of the cannabis bubble. So when we talk about cannabis, it's very personal to us. There's a reason for that. When we talk about stories like our 2-year-old who takes a broad spectrum product at night to control seizures, or our 89-year-old grandmother who might sit in her rocking chair and smoke a fat ass blunt because of her rheumatoid arthritis. When we tell those types of stories to people outside of this space, that's when we're really uplifting the plant, because we're introducing it to them in a way that allows them to internalize and personalize cannabis, and they can start to question their own lives around the plant, as in, should I consume? Can my 2-year-old use this? Can my grandfather or grandmother use this? That type of stuff. So that's really what uplifting the plant is all about.
Understood, Dustin. Yeah, I love that mission. And what are some of those red flags that you look out for? Let's say you got someone who's like, I'm uplifting the plant, right? Has all the positive attitudes around that, but maybe something else is off. In your experience, what is it worth looking out for in terms of red flags when getting a new team member on?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things. And one, it's about having that positive helpful, supportive attitude,
Mhm.
pretty much as humanly possible. Being positive
Yeah.
is very important to be here. And then the one big red flag is money. If people
Mhm.
come into this space in cannabis, period, and what they're worried about is money, you're in the wrong area. You're in the wrong industry. You're in the wrong space. There's money is very hard to come by in this industry. So
Mm.
if you come into the industry and your focus is cash, there's the biggest red flag that I could ever imagine.
It seems though as if it's an industry where there's a lot of money to be made, right? And there's probably a balance of doing it in an ethical way, right? So why do you think money is hard to come by in the cannabis industry?
Well, I think it's based on laws and regulations make things very hard for a lot of brands, a lot of
Yeah.
businesses. We don't
Mhm.
have interstate commerce. We don't get to write off our taxes. We
Oh,
don't have the support that we need from the main population in the world at this point. We don't have the influx of investors. That
yeah.
money came and went, 5, 6, 7 years ago, if not more, because people that came into the industry early got a huge influx of cash to do what they were doing. And in
Yeah.
many cases, it didn't really pan out. You saw the investors go away. So
Mm.
money is very hard to come by because there just isn't anyone here with money. So even though we can sell a ton of cannabis and sell a ton of products and all that kind of stuff, there are
Mhm.
all these laws and rules and regulations that we have to dip and dive around. And let's not forget about taxes. We are overtaxed to death as an industry. That's
Mm.
another problem.
I had
So
no idea about that.
Oh yeah. So you can just look in California, where I think they just increased taxes again on the entire industry, and it's something ridiculous that they're taxing everyone on right now. I think it's like 19% or something along those lines. It's one of those things where everything that could be pushing back against the success of the industry overall is,
Mhm.
whether it be laws, whether it be regulations, whether it's our politicians always talking trash about cannabis. And the interstate commerce is a big deal. And again, add the no investors, that kind of stuff. And then you also have bad actors in this space, people who don't really care, people who aren't making good products, people who aren't growing excellent cannabis for their consumers and their
Yeah.
patients. So
Right.
there's a lot of things and a lot of reasons that really can get in the way of building a profitable industry and profitable businesses in the industry. But there are a handful that are doing it very well. For instance, Wild. If you've ever heard of the brand Wild, they make excellent gummies.
Mhm.
And they're in, I think, every state, every legal state at this point, probably in just about 95+% of all the dispensaries that exist. So
Yeah.
there are brands and businesses and companies and organizations that are operating and doing excellent business, and they are making hand over fist. For instance, Wild, I think they did $200 million in sales last year. So
Wow.
that's enormous. So there is money here, but it's very few and far between, and it's very focused on a handful of companies. So
Yeah.
there is a way to be profitable and to do things well and to do things right and to make money, but there are massive amounts of hurdles that are set up in front of everyone that we have to overcome first. And the industry
Yeah.
is so young that we're still trying to overcome that stuff.
Wow. Okay, that's crazy about being not being able to write off your taxes as a business.
Yep.
And yeah, it sounds like a very challenging business environment in general. And yet, you guys have persevered for over 3.5 years. And for at least from the outside, it looks like things are on the up and up. And I'm
Yeah, we
curious.
we we continue to
Yeah,
grow for sure.
that's awesome. So, what has helped you persevere in this really tough business climate through those challenges, Dustin? I'm very curious. By the way, if you're looking to build your team with incredible overseas talent, check us out at paired.so. We help you find your perfect overseas hire that delivers world-class results for the fraction of the local cost for the same role. If for whatever reason you don't end up hiring anyone, you pay nothing, so it's 100% risk-free, we would love to chat and see if we can help you and your business, link is in the description. Now back to the pod.
It's authenticity. Everybody,
Mm,
so we have the trust of the industry. We don't put out BS. We don't do pay to play stuff here. Everything that we put out is very much community and culture focused. It is industry helpful. So we're here to do good, and people see that and they trust us for that. And I think that's been some of the main things that
yeah.
have really allowed us to continue to grow. It's a slow
Mhm.
grinding grow, but
Yes.
it's worked. And as long as we continue to push forward, we will continue to grow. And really, it's all based on, being authentic to who we are, the love that we have for cannabis itself, the love that we have for the community and culture that surround it, and the want for our industry to actually succeed. So once you are able to really portray that and then prove it, people begin to come. People begin to read. People begin to buy the magazine. People begin to want to advertise in the magazine. So it's just one of those things that, as long as you aren't selling your soul and you aren't a pay to play sellout type of publication, people actually care. It's
Yes.
that simple. So you make people care about what you're doing because you're bringing something to them that is familiar to them, that they can connect with on a personal level, and they know that it's um, open, honest, transparent cannabis.
Yes. Absolutely. Love it, Dustin. And what would you say is your long-term goal, your bigger vision for Fat Nugs Magazine?
Yeah, worldwide. It's that simple. I want to dominate the market with this publication in every sense of the word. And I mean that wholeheartedly, as in every store that you go into, whether it's a grocery store or a gas station or a dispensary or it doesn't matter. If it's a newsstand or it's at an airport or whatever, I want the magazine there. I want people to have the option to read that, to learn about cannabis, to have personal things that they can find in the publication itself, really just being available anywhere and everywhere. That's the overall goal. So the main thing that we're focused on here is to do the right work to eventually be able to get the magazine in hundreds of millions of people's hands.
Love it. Well, there's certainly a market for that where I'm based. I'm based in Spain, and there are cannabis clubs here, and there's a whole culture here. So maybe that's an area to consider.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, we've
that
we've
next.
we've had a few boxes in Spain. We've had
Oh yeah.
oh yeah, we've had a few. Actually, we've been in 6 countries multiple times with multiple boxes and multiple editions. Spain
Oh, got
being
it.
one of them. We've been in the Netherlands, so Amsterdam,
Yeah.
Jamaica,
Oh,
Canada. I'm forgetting a couple here and there, but yeah, we've
yeah.
we've we've already started that process. We'll be in Iceland here shortly. So
Wow.
we are expanding as we can globally. It's a slow grind again,
Yeah.
but Spain is definitely one that we're trying to hit. And we've been to Spanibus a couple of times, right? We've had writers at Spanibus. So people know who we are in Spain.
Love it, man. Sounds really good, Dustin. On a final note, what would be your advice for a founder, for an entrepreneur that similarly to you wants to do it from an authentic place, not only for profit, but wants to create like a grassroots movement with their brand? What would be your advice to them?
Yeah, it really simple. Don't do it unless you absolutely love it, because there is no money in it until you get to a certain point.
Hmm.
If you can't love cannabis, there's no reason for you to be in the industry. If you just like to smoke some weed and you think it's going to be an easy thing to get in here and make some cash, you're going to fail, and you're going to fail miserably. So it's either absolutely love cannabis to death and being a part of the industry and the community and culture and all of that stuff, and have the right mindset that and understand that there is no money first.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people. So come here with love of cannabis and let everything else fall into place.
Amazing, Dustin. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of the stories and insights. We really appreciate it, and I encourage everyone to check out Fat Nugs Magazine. I'll definitely leave a link in the description, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, Martin. I appreciate you having me, man.